Hey Shooby-Doodlers, how are you doing? I was visiting Calke Abbey on Monday, which is a country house run by the National Trust. We had a little wait before our time slot to visit inside the house, and I was just looking at these blasted oak trees and thought, I'll just do a quick little sketch of that. And so I did. And then I thought, I will show you how to draw it. This was part of their coat of arms, but let's not talk about it. Let's draw it. So I was using my Sailor Fude pen, Fude. What is special about this? Well, you can maybe see that the nib the nib is bent, and I remember I used to use fountain pens to write with us at school as a boy, and sometimes they would fall on the floor and they would look like that. Dying. And but this is meant to be like that, and we start drawing down here. And the nice thing about a food pen is if you turn it upside down, you get this really thin line, and you can get a really nice kind of thin line like that. But then you turn it around and you can get a much thicker line, so you can really kind of play. Oh, that's very thick. You can really kind of play with it and kind of put little knots on the branches as you're going. And we're going to want to have that sort of coming along something out there like that. So it's just kind of very kind of organic. Well, it is organic, isn't it? So it's this kind of building up this kind of pattern, and it's constantly kind of like a river delta going spreading out at the end. Obviously that's where the branches are going. So then we want a little bit coming up here, and then just slightly kind of under, because there's an awful lot of this kind of rolling and folding of the branches. And what is a blasted oak? Well, you get these old oak trees, which I think they've been blasted by lightning, basically. I think that is what I think that's probably what an official blasted oak is. So where am I going with this? I want this to be sort of coming out into these new little branchettes, and we're kind of trying to fill in these spaces at the end. And now, well, I think you see there's a space here. We might sort of come back to that at the end. And where are we now? You can get lost in this very easily. It's a bit like a puzzle, and we're going to want to have that sort of coming out there. So you get these kind of right angle bends and loops and kind of things going on. So there's an interesting little thing happened there. And I think we're going to want to have another one sort of coming along up there. So eventually we're kind of aiming for this nice kind of round sort of feature, and to sort of get that kind of edge, we need to kind of keep getting these little kind of fingers at the end. And I suppose it's becoming a bit predictable that I'm kind of doing two splits in each one. And we can have another, let's try 3. See if we can do like something like that. But again, you see, I'm going to split that into 2, because that's kind of what it does really. It's get these sort of 2 branches. You've got one bit that's going forward, and then one branch sort of splits off, doesn't it? And then that might split. And similarly there. And it's interesting now because the paper is acting sort of slightly differently here, and the paper in my book, which is a Seawhite A5 travel journal, which is what I do all my sketching in. You'll find all the Amazon links down below for these things. I'm not sure I've got the Sailor Pen. I'll make sure the Sailor Pen link is in the links down below. And so the ink in the paper in the sketchbook is very different. So it's much more absorbent. So the ink is kind of splitting a little bit, and kind of going a bit sort of blotchy in areas, and then I'm going to put a little bit like that. It's kind of more of a silhouette kind of branch kind of thing going off there. And we might add another one in there that's kind of maybe coming round from behind on the other side of the tree. And it's just kind of filling in those little areas like that. So blasted oak, yes, I think it means that it has been blasted by a lightning bolt and has kind of killed the tree. I think that's the kind of old original meaning of the thing. Now I'm going straight up there like that, and then I'm around about here, I think, yeah. So this is where I'm going to come in there, and yeah, and then this is going way up, and then that'll split out there, and then here that's going to come out, and then we want the odd sort of knobbly crunchy bit like that, and then that's going to sort of come out there. So you can see we're starting to get this kind of rounded kind of shape. And so of course a dead blasted oak is not going to have any leaves, and that makes it hugely easier to draw. Once you start putting leaves on a tree, I find that really difficult. I keep meaning to look at the old masters, and every now and then I go to a museum or something, and they got a collection of drawings and you know, the sort of trees and things. I think, oh good, I'll take a close-up picture of that, and I keep meaning to sit down one day and really study how the old masters drew trees. And there is a kind of a technique which just looks right, but I think it's just something you just have to sit down and really study and work out how they did it, and just copy them. Copy that style. When I say copy them, then yeah, I had somebody recently who was infuriated because I have a video called how to, you know, tracing is not bad, tracing is good for you, and my argument there is that you know, by tracing things you kind of learn, you can really learn how the lines are made and how other people have done things before you, and I sort of say, you know, but of course, you know, you know, you're not meant to copy things and call it your own work, and that tracing is good for you as a learning tool, and also I trace an awful lot in design work, just for fine tuning of artwork and getting things in the right place, and just refining and refining, and of course, but that's my own work, and I'm allowed to trace my own work, for goodness sake. It's not cheating, it's not copying, and you know, I'm only copying myself, so and creating something new in the process. And I had somebody commented on there, why am I, you know, showing people how to copy and cheat, and some people get a little worked up about these things. So and of course, yeah, no, it's not right to copy and claim things as your own, but that's not what I was saying. So yeah, copying from the masters, that's what we all do, that's how we learn. And but the thing is, you know, they're the masters for a reason. You know, they were in their time, and there's no point in really doing it exactly the same as they did and sort of just reproducing what they did 200-300 years ago, because it's been done, and you're not going to sort of, you know, become a famous artist, if that's what you want to do, or a commercially successful artist, by just copying and reproducing what's gone before. You might make a living as a restorer or something like that, but you're not going to be an original artist, copying work that's just all been done a couple of 100 years ago. But I think what you do is you learn from them and you assimilate them, and you bring those ideas into your drawing and that understanding, and move it on that little bit. And that's what's always happened. And those artists themselves did exactly the same from the generation before them. So if you really want to get to draw trees better, go and look at how the old people did. They had the time. They had the time to sit around and draw trees that we don't have anymore. And they probably had the trees to draw as well. They've all been cut down since, haven't they? That's another sad reality. And again, this kind of a tree, really, you have to go to a kind of a preserved country estate. So this tree was probably planted 500 years ago, and you're not going to find that, just round the corner in a shopping mall, are you? You have to go somewhere, and in a parkland where you get the expanse of land where you can sit far enough back to actually see and appreciate what is going on with this tree. So if you haven't got that to hand, or there's nowhere like that near where you live, then you're going to have to go and have a look into it in books. And there's nothing like looking in the old books and see how the old guys used to do it. I'm ranting, aren't I? I'm raving, rather. I don't think I'm ranting. Raving, maybe. So we need a bit more around here. And I'm going to have this kind of on the hillside, like that. And I think we need probably a bit more grass around there. I think we can put a bit more shading in places, maybe. So I'm going to turn the pen over just to get that thinner line, and just get more of these kind of thin branches on the end. We probably need something in there as well. Maybe one up there. So I've got my little pot of watercolour paints here, and I'm going to get something greyish brown. And this is not... I'm just going to kind of do this really, really simply. And again, this is my Seawhite, Pentel Aquash paintbrush. And for those who don't know, the water is in the handle and it kind of flows down through the brush, and it's really, really great. So this is what I painted it with on Monday. These brushes are really, really good to take with you when you're sketching, and again, all the links are down below. And I might add at this point also that the ink is waterproof, and so that's one of the reasons I'm using this Fude pen, because it's been really difficult finding a pen and ink that you can just instantly draw. It'll dry, waterproof, that you can then start watercolouring straight onto without all the ink sort of smearing and sort of messing up, dirtying the watercolour. And so that's a little journey I've been on just recently. and I've come up with carbon black, which is wonderful. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's changed my life yet, but I think it's in the process of changing it. The Fude pen is, I have not got used to, and I think when I first tried it, actually I really didn't like it, and I thought, oh no, this isn't for me. But I'm persevering with it, and I think it's like a lot of tools. You kind of have to get to know them. And they're funny little quirks, and I think I was just a little bit heavy-handed with it when I first started. An interesting thing, it's quite long. It's got a very long shaft, and I found whereas I normally draw kind of quite tight around here, when I'm sketching I find that I'm holding it back here, and it's almost like painting with it, so it's a very different tool. And this is my little paint box that I take with me. It's not the one that's advertised, because this is a really old one that I gave my mother in about 1984, and she never used, and she's given it back to me. And I don't think they make them quite like this anymore. I think they make little tin boxes still like this, but I think this is a slightly heavier quality than they do now. So yeah, so let's just get the grass in there, and then basically all we need to do is to sort of put some darker shadow in. So I'm going to add a little bit of neutral tint into there just to darken that up. And so we basically we want to be sort of painting the undersides of these branches. And again, you can see I'm moving my hand up to the bottom of the shaft, which gives a more kind of a painterly line. I think it's more of a random line than if you're holding it really tight and close and trying to, paint really accurately, which is kind of not really what I'm trying to do. So I want to get this kind of painterly marks, I suppose, from the brush. Yeah, what is the difference between painting and drawing? I think my personal feeling is that painting is about using paint, where the colour is in the paint and you sort of blop it onto the canvas or the paper or whatever, and the colour is coming from the paint, whereas watercolour is very different. And watercolour I kind of mix in with drawing, and because the light is coming from the paper and it's shining through the watercolour. I've said this so many times, and it's so so you're really sort of drawing on top of the light, whereas paint, you're applying the light, you're applying the colour of the light, whereas here the light is in the paper is the light, and you're adding these sort of transparent layers on the top. So now I'm just adding a bit more neutral tint, which is what I use for black. I think black is just too dark. We've got enough of that in the outline drawing. So neutral tint is just a kind of a bluey kind of grey, dark bluey grey. And I think it's in the word tint. So a tint is a colour with. A tint is a hue with. No, a shade, isn't it? A shade is a hue with black applied, and a tint is a hue with white applied. Am I right? I think that's right. But neutral tint is somewhere in between, and it's not that sort of dark black that's just going to punch a hole in your drawing or make it dirty, which is not what you want. And I think I'm going to leave it there and say how to draw a blasted oak. And I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, click down here and make sure you are subscribed to the Shoo Rayner drawing channel. Keep coming back for lots more drawing and illustration videos every week. And in the meantime, keep drawing, drawing, drawing. Practice, practice, practice. And I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye-bye.